You may not be able to see it, but way back there's some white stuff on the top of those hills. And it's like 32 degrees right here, right now. So let's go inside and talk. It is about 25 degrees warmer in here. I don't have the heat on or anything, partly from driving around, partly from cooking. But I can still see my breath inside here. So it's still cold. 54-ish, something like that. But I've got a nice hot drink right here. There we go. Yep. That makes it all better. Okay. Turn the lights on a little bit. It was kind of dark. Now y'all can see more of my clutter behind me. But, okay, so let's start at the beginning. Good Sam Roadside Assistance, that's who I have roadside assistance with. And we're going to go to the beginning. Is I was in northern Nevada near a place called Denio Junction. That's that little gas station with the farm animals. And there's absolutely nothing out there. I had just left the Virgin Valley campground where the hot spring was and drove, I don't know, 40, 50 miles with no service out of there. So I'm glad that the breakdown occurred where it did, because I had just gone back into cell phone reception, and this would have been a complete disaster if I didn't have phone service. But so I was driving in northern Nevada, just started heading down towards Winnemucca, and the check engine light started flashing, and I could hear something clanging around in the engine. I knew it wasn't good, so I shut it off, and I got off the road, and got out of the vehicle, and I turned it back on again while I was outside so I could hear the engine itself better, and I could hear something clanging around in there. Just my initial thought is something broke inside the engine internal, and that we're done. But I went ahead and waited about 45 minutes after that, and I let the engine cool down, and then I turned it on one more time, and it made the same awful sounds. So I shut it down, and I called the Good Sam Roadside Assistance toll-free number and initiated that process. They checked with me, to see where I was, if I was okay, make sure I wasn't broken down in traffic anywhere, and that I was safe. And they wanted vehicle specs, vehicle measurements, make, model. They might have asked me for the VIN number. I don't remember. But I gave them all that information and let them know where I was. And that way they could start finding a towing company that could tow a vehicle my size type thing. And so that essentially is how that initial phone call played out. So this process went through several phone calls and several people working with Good Sam. So a little bit of the details I may mix up a little bit here and there on who exactly I spoke to when and where. I may mix that up a little bit. But essentially we had that initial phone call, and then they're on their end doing their thing, and then I'm trying to figure out, where I can take my vehicle and actually have it serviced. So I called every place I looked up I could find in Winnemucca and was told no by everybody, except for one person said, maybe we could get to you in a couple weeks, but that's about it. So that was not a good thing. And I wasn't really super thrilled about going to Winnemucca in the first place, because I would prefer to go to a Chevy dealership. So the next thing I did is I started looking up Chevy dealerships. The closest Chevy dealership was actually 116 miles behind me, going backwards. And I called those people up and talked to them, and that they said my vehicle is too large for them to service, but they've got some sort of business agreement with a shop down the street that handles larger vehicles. So I had that sorted out, and the next step from there is that went back to the Good Sam's people. That's the closest place I could find to work on it. And at that point, Good Sam starts the process of trying to find somebody who will take me there. And they did find one company that would do it. It's 116 miles. They wanted close to $3,500 to tow me there. $30-something a mile, something insanely ridiculous. And I wasn't sure if that was because it was getting to be later in the day, or if they just didn't want to do it, or what the story was. And that is when I told the Good Sam people that if it's cheaper to tow me tomorrow, tow me tomorrow. It doesn't have to be done today. I'm not in a hurry. I've got food. I've got everything I need. If they're wanting $1 million from you because it's a rush thing, don't rush on my account. So that essentially is where the conversation ended on the first day. And in the process of that, there were hours in between, just looking and trying to find people. The initial person that I'd spoke to had gone home, and then I was speaking to a second person, and then that was the end of the day. So I knew I'd be speaking to a third person in the morning. Okay, now we're on to day 2. I went ahead and I called Champion Chevrolet in Reno because I'd already spoken to them several months before about having the engine replaced and figuring out costs and whether it's something they could do. And it was, and they'd given me a basic price for that I was comfortable with. So I called them back, and they 2 thumbs up, just get it there, and we're good to go. And so I relayed that back to the Good Sam people that if the people are still being ridiculous about taking me the other way, maybe it would be cheaper or a wash or something to take me to Reno, which, what was it, 116 miles back, or I think it was like 260 miles to Reno. It's a long haul. But I said, if they're going to extort you, if you can get a better price for the same price, take me to Reno. I know I can get the work done in Reno. I've spoken to the Chevy dealership twice there, and once being that morning, and they're ready for me if it's an option. I just kind of giving them options. I know the tow is on their dime, so I left that up to them to decide. And a few hours later, they called me up and told me they'd made arrangements to take me to Reno, heck with the other people. And then I got, I think it was an automated message I got from Good Sam saying that I should be picked up in a few hours. And so at that point, I started tidying up and getting ready to go, and just sat in the front of the vehicle and just kind of kept looking like a puppy dog waiting for its master to come home. So a few hours later, I got a call from the actual towing company that was coming to get me, and they said that they're trying to squeeze me in between all their regular stuff, and that they would try to get me by the end of the day, but that it might push to day 3 before they could actually come and get me. So at that point, I did laundry and just kind of other stuff, kind of waiting around. But they were able to get me, 4:30, 5 o'clock on day 2. So they picked me up, loaded me up, and then we went approximately 100 miles to Winnemucca, which is actually their home base. And they offered to take me to a motel for the night if I needed that. But I asked if I could just stay in my bed right here because, it's my bed and it's free. And they were okay with that. So I stayed here. That didn't cost me anything. And then we got up at dark 30. And we drove the other 160 plus or minus miles into Reno, and they dropped me off right in front of the Chevy dealership. They did great. They did a good job, and I'm happy with everything. Okay, now let's talk about roadside assistance. If I didn't have the roadside assistance, I would have been stuck there on the side of the road trying to find someone to call to come and get me. If I'd have found anybody, I'd be looking at over $3,000 to get towed back to that other place, or I don't know the exact figures that it costs to tow me to Reno, but I'd imagine it's probably at least $1,500 that they spent, and they took care of everything. I answered all their questions. I told them what they needed to know. They took care of it. They found someone to come get me. I sat there, and I didn't have to deal with any of the stress of that or trying to figure any of that out, and I didn't have to pay for it. That's important. So again, I'm not sponsored by anybody. No one's paying me to do this. I am super happy with Good Sam's Roadside Assistance. That's kind of partly why I'm doing the video, and partly to try to help you guys understand the importance and maybe the benefits of having roadside assistance on whatever you're traveling in. Because this year, I bought the roadside assistance about 2 months into my travels, and that was during the pandemic, and there was a new customer sale going on. And I'd looked at Good Sam, I'd looked at AAA and all these other things, and the sale that Good Sam was running, it was $60-something for the first year for new customers, and I jumped on that because that was the cheapest. That's kind of what I went with. It was the cheapest, so I went with that. But during the checkout process, it also offered me a second year at the same price. So it was $120, $130 for 2 years of roadside assistance, and I went ahead and elected to do that, which saved my tail. The first year of roadside assistance, I had a few minor issues, a water pump and then a radiator issue, and I took care of those myself. I didn't need any help. So the first year of roadside assistance came and went with not having to use it at all. And then here's the second year, and this one breakdown, this one tow, just on the financial end of it, saved me, I don't know exactly how much, but I mean at least $1,000, at least. So $120, $130 saved me over $1,000, maybe $2,000. I don't know how much they charge to tow an RV in on a big rig. What, 260 something miles, whatever it exactly was. But I know it wasn't cheap, and I'm super happy with that. And you know, the fact that I didn't have to stress out over anything. I just made the call, I answered the questions, they came and got me. They took me here, and I just can't imagine going through and doing that myself and having to sit there on my phone trying to find large towing companies and everything. To just that in itself would just be a huge mess. But one of the good things about Good Sam, and I can't really compare it to any other roadside assistance because I'm not that knowledgeable in them, but with the Good Sam, they take you where you need to go. If it's 50 miles down the road, they take you where you need to go. If it's, in my case, it's, you know, over 250 miles down the road to the Chevy dealership, they're going to take you to where you can get your vehicle repaired. There again, I can't speak for anybody else, but if you have a roadside assistance that has limited mileage or limited towing, they may not be taking you to where you can get your vehicle fixed. They may take you to the closest city or something of that nature where you will, you know, technically be safe, but they may not be taking you to where you get your vehicle fixed, and you may end up footing the rest of the bill yourself. There again, the only reason I'm even bringing that up is so any of you guys out there who have roadside assistance or are thinking about it, that you take the time to look at what your coverage includes to make sure there are no surprises in there. Because this year, if there were limitations on the towing and whatnot, that'd have been huge, really, really huge. But yep. I will be renewing it. My second year goes through August, and you know, tip my hat to them. I will renew it, and I will give some of the money back, type thing. And hopefully, I don't need to use it. But just in the lesson I've learned from this is that it's worth having, absolutely worth having. Especially if you have a larger, oversized vehicle like I do. If you have an RV, a box truck conversion, hell, even a van with the top on it, a tall van, you may run into height issues getting towed and different things. So yeah, it's important. I'm glad I have it, 100%, 150% glad I have it. If you get anything out of this video or any of the others, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, any of those things, and maybe this information will help save someone else down the road.